Hey, what's up everybody? Giovanna back again for another video, and today I am going to be reacting to your guys' unpopular opinions, and basically the way this video is going to work. So obviously you guys saw I did a tweet where I was like, hey guys, I'm going to be doing a video where I'm going to be reacting to some unpopular opinions, and just basically the way it's going to work is I'm going to read your replies and basically say if I agree or disagree, or if I straight up have no idea what you're talking about, and it's just going to be a fun little discussion. Obviously you guys are more than welcome to leave your thoughts in the comments below, but this is nothing but civil discussion. I'm not going to make fun of anyone for having an opinion. But yeah, that's what this video is supposed to encourage. It's supposed to encourage open dialogue, you know, because we don't always agree. You know, there's 7 billion people on this planet, so it's going to be impossible to agree with everyone. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so our first unpopular opinion comes to us from Revan X, and he says, the prequels are better than the OT, and George Lucas's world building in the prequels is 1,000 times better than Tolkien's world building in his Middle-earth novels. Tolkien is still number 2, but George is the GOAT in terms of world building. So I agree. I actually think, believe it or not, like the prequels are to some degree are better than the original trilogy. I think the original trilogy is better in the sense of like how classic it is and how it really changed cinema a lot. But in the sense of the prequels, I think the story was way better. Like, obviously, the effects were, like, way ahead of its time. Those lightsaber duels were way better. So, yeah, I could kind of agree with you. I could definitely agree with you in some sense on that. But saying George Lucas is better than J.R.R. Tolkien, I don't really know, because the thing is, their styles are, like, really different. Like, I mean, not totally, but that's what I would kind of think they're a bit different, because Tolkien is more of, like, a fantasy dude, and, like, a really classic, like, fairy tale. But what George was basically telling, he was telling, like, a fantasy fairy tale story, but basically in space. So I guess they're kind of different. They're, like, kind of unique in their own ways. But I think George has, like, more of an extended universe than Tolkien did. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence of that one. I think, maybe Tolkien's a bit better, but then again, I've read literally one Hobbit book, so I don't know how much I can talk. Next one comes to us from Price of Reason, and he says, until Vader's first scene in Rogue One, the movie is really bad. After that scene, including the entire battle of Scarif, oh my god, I literally can't read, is awesome. So basically, Rogue One is 2/3 shit and 1/3 spectacular. So I kind of agree with you, you know. I think that Vader scene was, like, the best part of Rogue One. I didn't really like Rogue One. I thought it was, like, I didn't think it was really bad, but I thought it was kind of just mediocre at, like, the best, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it did kind of feel like Star Wars, but in my opinion, it was just really boring, you know what I mean? But, yeah, the Battle of Scarif, I thought that was, like, pretty cool, you know? But, yeah, 2/3 shit and 1/3 spectacular. I may not completely agree with those, like, statistics and numbers, but sure, you know, yeah. You know, we respect everyone around here. Next one comes to us, sorry, my hand hurts. Next one comes to us from Mongo's Big Thinks. Luke milking the alien sea cow is the funniest thing that I've seen in Star Wars. It's even funnier when the space camel farted in Jar Jar's face. I don't think Luke milking the sea alien is funny. You know, I feel like that's kind of just like a stupid Rian Johnson thing to, like, prove his point even more. I feel like that's just Johnson's other way of giving a middle finger. But if you find it funny, that's great. Personally, my funniest Star Wars moments are all really stupid. But my favorite funniest moment, I guess, is but I have to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. That, I just find it funny because it's, like, such a classic line. Same thing with, like, hello there in Revenge of the Sith. I kind of find that funny, even though it's, like, not funny. It's just, like, the way it's memed and everything, if that makes sense. Next unpopular opinion comes to us from the Senate. Dark Knight Rises is he actually has a few written here, so Dark Knight Rises is trash. I hate Guardians of the Galaxy. Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight. Far Cry Primal is my favorite game in the series of games. GTA is overrated. So I agree and disagree with some of your things. Dark Knight Rises is trash. I don't think Dark Knight Rises is completely trash. If you say it's the weakest out of the Dark Knight trilogy, I might be able to agree with you there. I personally, like, kind of, like, find some unique love for all of them in, you know, in their own way. I hate Guardians of the Galaxy. I disagree. I actually enjoyed both Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy. Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight. Yeah, I think so. I think you could say Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight, for sure. Far Cry Primal is my favorite game in this series of games. I've never played... Listen, I'm not a gamer, and there are people that put, like, gaming takes in here. I don't, like, understand them. I don't know how the gaming community is. But, yeah, so I can't comment on that. And GTA is overrated. Yeah, for sure. I think GTA is overrated. I played it a few times with some friends, and it's really fucking boring. It's, like, it's so stupid. Yeah, so I agree with you there. Next comes to us from Christy, according to Christy, and she just comments, Raylo, with a bunch of laughy faces. And then Lyndon Hall replies with the Jack Sparrow gif of him like, I tried my best. Oh, that was really cringy. Next, unpopular opinion comes to us from the rookie critic, aka Jeff, and he says, he drops a few as well. Ghostbusters is highly overrated. Jessica Alba over Jessica Rabbit. Pie, brownies, and cake are nasty. Not all millennials are bad. So I actually agree with like a lot of your stuff here. Ghostbusters is overrated. I definitely think Ghostbusters is overrated. Jessica Alba is better than Jessica Rabbit. Yeah, I've mainly like paid attention to Jessica Alba. I haven't really paid attention to anything about Jessica Rabbit, so I guess I could kind of agree, but I can't speak too much. Pies, brownies, and cake are nasty. I totally disagree there. I love all of them. The thing is, they are good if they are made right. Like, for example, if you have, like, a nice pumpkin pie and, like, a perfect crust, that is good. Put some whipped cream and ice cream on there. Fire. Brownies, if they're burnt and if they're a corner piece, I'd say absolutely not. But I like soft, like, the chewy brownies. And cake is nasty. I do not think cake is nasty. I think cake, I've never had, like, a bad piece of cake in my life unless it's, like, rock hard, you know? And not all millennials are bad. Yeah, obviously, like, you can't generalize a whole generation. I mean, obviously, like, I do think a lot of millennials are, like, sure, like, oversensitive and, like, change the way, like, a lot of things in our society, like, our culture is run. But, yeah, I don't think all of them are bad. You know, I have a lot of friends that are millennials, so, yeah. Next, unpopular opinion comes to us from Blobbertfish, aka Happy Blobfish Productions. And he just says GIF, and it's pineapple belongs on pizza. So I disagree. I don't think pineapple belongs on pizza. I am very strongly Italian. I think that ruins the classicness of pizza. I feel like it only goes on pizza if you have like the sauce, like a really sweet sauce with it. Other than that, I don't understand how people like it. I'm not ridiculously passionate about the topic, but I guess my Italian family could elaborate more on the like Italian side than I can. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then next, Zen Waters actually put a bunch down. So she says, The Inhumans was a decent show. I've never watched The Inhumans, so I really can't speak on that. Once Upon a Time in Wonderland was better than most of the seasons of Once Upon a Time. My mom actually watched that show, so I didn't. So again, I can't speak on that whatsoever. Once Upon a Time should have ended after the Pan storyline, or they should have shifted to the new lead characters. Again, I've never seen the show. I can't talk. Most shows should last longer than 3 seasons. I've only known a handful that are good after that. Yes, even my beloved Buffy. Oh yeah, for sure. Like I know there are like a good amount of like Netflix shows that are like renewing for a season 4 in like 2021. Like for example, Atypical and Stranger Things season 4. I guess I'm pretty excited for that. But yeah, I think a lot of shows should last longer than 3 seasons for sure. As films, the prequels of Star Wars are B films at best, but that doesn't keep them from having robust world building and beautiful storytelling. Film, however, is a specific medium, and they do not use the acting, they do not use the acting and dialogue to the fullest. Visually, though, they're stunning. So I kind of like disagree a bit, because all right, so if you're gonna go off of like Hollywood standards, yeah, they're definitely B films at best. You know, I think even, like, people who really hate the prequels can understand that the story they told is, like, and the world building and the visuals are all amazing. But, I don't think they would be B movies. But the thing is, you can't judge the prequels by Hollywood standards, if that makes sense. Because, you know, they're meant to be looked at as, like, a theater play. So that's how I look at them. That's why I think they're good. But, yeah, I agree to disagree. It's all good. The Dark Knight Rises was the most enjoyable of the trilogy. Batman Begins was boring and The Dark Knight was frustrating. It's 2 films smashed into one and even a beat cop could have shot Joker, making Batman frustratingly useless. I actually totally disagree. I don't think The Dark Knight Rises was the most enjoyable. As I said before, I kind of like all three in the Dark Knight trilogy. Batman Begins, I don't think Batman Begins was boring. The Dark Knight was frustrating. I could understand why you think that, but I didn't think too much like that. But yeah, like, obviously, like, the Joker got away with way more than what was actually realistic. But then again, this is, like, fiction, so I'm not gonna go, like, too crazy into it. But yeah, I agree with you. It is pretty frustrating that the Joker got away with a lot and Batman did seem useless. So I can kind of agree with you there, but then again, I don't take it as seriously. Thor Ragnarok was a mistake all around. Thor had personality in the previous films. Remember his, I like this, another, y'all just wanted stupid modern humor, now we're saddled with fat, funny Thor and Taika Waititi. Yeah, I actually completely agree here. I hated Thor Ragnarok. A lot of my friends like Thor Ragnarok. And the only reason why people like it is because, in Abu Nasser's words, it was a freaking comedy coloring book, or something like that. He said something that was so true. But yeah, it was completely different from the first two Thor movies. Like, the first two Thor movies had a serious story and a serious tone. And it was like, hey, we can actually go somewhere. You know what I mean? And then, like, it was, you know, it was overall, like, pretty dark, right? From what I remember. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok was just a bunch of stupid modern humor that was so unnecessary. And I didn't like Tessa Thompson's character at all. Valkyrie, I think. I'm not too much a Marvel fan, so I probably fucked that up. But yeah, I didn't think Tessa Thompson is just a horrible actress. I'm sorry, I didn't think she was really good in anything. But yeah, that's just Taika Waititi's style, and I don't appreciate it. But if you do, that's cool. But yeah, it was like, yeah, and now obviously, yeah, now we were stuck with fat Thor in Endgame because of people liked Ragnarok or whatever. Yeah, I didn't really like it just because it was like, yeah, I didn't like it. The ending, I could say I appreciated the ending of Thor Ragnarok. It definitely had a little bit more tone and seriousness to it, but overall the movie, nah, it was just pretty frustrating to me. I don't know how unpopular this is, but the media needs to stop saddling Jean Grey with the Phoenix storyline. She never had it in Evolution, and we were all better for it. I have no idea what you're talking about, so I can't comment. Having said that, the X-Men Apocalypse was a perfectly fine movie, and this scene still gives me chills. I've actually never seen any X-Men movies. Alright, yeah, you can all shit on me in the comments. I really don't give a fuck, but yeah. Jubilee deserves more panel time in comics. Again, I don't read comics, so I can't even talk on this. She just needs a decent writer. Jubilee and Wolverine are a great team, especially how that she's older and can tease him in a flirty manner. Again, I can't talk on this. I don't know anything about the topic. James Potter was a terrible person. Sirius Black and Snape were both bullies. Hermione needed just as much work as Ron. She seriously didn't respect him or his skills. So, actually, I haven't watched, I don't think I have watched a full Harry Potter movie in my childhood. Like, when it was on the TV, I would watch clips of it, but I've never actually seen the movies in full. But I have a lot of friends who like it, and I have, apparently, I heard, like, it's pretty boring from the people who don't like it. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll actually have time to check out Harry Potter one day. Fuck, wait, I fucked it up, damn it. Pokemon should go back to roots and abandon an open world setting. Also, the roots need to be bigger now that they're on the console. Again, I don't play Pokemon. I played Pokemon on my DS when I was little, and that's it. Zelda needs to introduce more demise-like villains besides, again, I'm not going to read these to the fullest, but I'll put them on screen because I'm wasting time because I have no idea what they're talking about, but I want to give everyone a chance of free speech. Mass Effect Andromeda isn't a terrible game. Again, I don't play these games, so I can't talk, but I will leave them on screen for people who actually know what is being talked about here, and you guys could go read them yourself. And I believe that's it. Thanks for enduring my mile-long list. Lol. Okay, thank you. Fanscene says, the Beatles are overrated. They only have a couple decent songs. Yo, that is fucking facts. The Beatles, for me personally, the two most overrated bands of all time are Nirvana and the Beatles. People think the Beatles are this, like, classic thing, whatever. There were a lot of bands like them at the time, like The Who, The Monkees, you know. Then the Beatles I definitely think are totally overrated. I agree with you, Fancy. The next one comes to us from The Last Jedi fan, and then he literally comments, you already know mine, lol. And then, yeah, and I asked him to confirm, so you like The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi is his favorite Star Wars movie, and hate Rogue One, and he said, yes, The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie, and Rogue One is my least favorite Star Wars movie. So, obviously, I totally disagree. The Last Jedi is actually my least favorite Star Wars movie. I mean, everybody knows the reasons at this point, because we've been talking about it for so long. I'm not too hung up on it like everyone else. You know, but I wouldn't go as far as saying Rogue One's my least favorite Star Wars movie. Like, it was, like, bearable. It's like, watchable, but it's, like, really boring to me. But yeah, that's, yeah, it's okay. We could respectfully agree and disagree. Next one comes to us from Zero Fall. I Am Legend is a good movie. Resident Evil 6 is decent. Skyrim is trash, and Rey is not a Mary Sue. Just kidding, I couldn't think of anything else. Okay, I've never seen I Am Legend, so I can't talk on that. I've never played Resident Evil 6. I've never played Skyrim. Rey's not a Mary Sue. I mean, yeah, obviously you're kidding. I don't think Rey's like a total Mary Sue, but I get why she is and I get why she isn't, so I can understand both sides to the story there. Next comes to us from Scooby. Solo is so awesome and underrated. Grievous is an underrated character. So Solo, I actually did not like Solo at all. I think I would go as far as saying I think Solo is worse than Rogue One. Just like as a movie, you know, obviously like all the behind the scenes stuff, that's one thing, you know, what happened with them switching writers and directors and everything, like halfway through production, even more. But I didn't think it was a good movie overall. Like the cinematography was literally awful. The action was pretty boring. Overall the movie was boring, like the plot was boring. The way Han met Chewie I thought was kind of lame. You know what I mean? I didn't really like that backstory too much, but I appreciated that, you know, they tried to go out there and give us a Han Solo movie, because that I like the concept of it, but it's just the way it was like presented to us, it wasn't too great in my opinion. I think the only person that could play Han Solo is Harrison Ford. Same thing with Indiana Jones. I feel the same way. I think it could only be Harrison Ford. So yeah, that's just me. And also, as for your second opinion, Grievous is an underrated character. Yeah, for sure. I think Grievous is so underrated. I like him. He's actually, speaking of funny Star Wars moments that we did before, I love when Grievous is like, you know, whenever he talks, it's just so funny because he resembles like a 30-year smoker. Next comes to us from the Atlantean. Oh boy, which ones to drop? Okay, 1. All of Rogue One is bad. Yes, even Vader, because that end sequence royally screws up pretty much the opening half hour of episode 4. 2, Rian Johnson gets too much blame for Disney Wars. Jar Jar Abrams doesn't get enough blame. So, I didn't think all of Rogue One was bad. Like, I kind of agreed with Price of Reason that the Battle of Scarif was okay, you know, it was, like, enjoyable to an extent. Even, like, I do kind of, like, I definitely understand where you're coming from with the Vader sequence, because that sequence in A New Hope where he just comes in the ship was like the most badass thing ever. So I do think it kind of like retcons like A New Hope a little bit there, but I still thought it was pretty badass nonetheless. But I do understand 100% where you're coming from, and I can even agree with you a bit. And as for your second one, Rian Johnson gets too much blame. I think so too. I definitely think like the most blame should be put, if anything, on Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. Ryan, like, admitted, like, not to play devil's advocate, but he even admitted that he couldn't write in that little of time. You know, he couldn't write, like, such a quality story. But then again, you have him going around like, oh, there are no valid criticisms, even though he basically admitted that he doesn't have enough time to write like that. I don't think we should overly blame JJ. You know, JJ was in the same boat as Ryan, except JJ was more a gentleman about these movies, you know, but more respectful, but still, obviously, what we got wasn't too great, in my opinion. Next comes to us from Mr. Dystopian. Silent Hill is better than Resident Evil, I have spoken. Again, I don't play video games, so you guys could all discuss that in the comments amongst yourselves. Ryan Dyer says, I like the prequels. I also like the movie Avatar. Yeah, I mean, I love the prequels, so obviously I agree with you. I've never seen Avatar, but I heard the majority opinion is that it's not too hot. But yeah, I'll have to check out Avatar. I want to check out Last Airbender as well because it's on Netflix. Next comes to us from Dylan Cachetta. Dunkirk was incredibly boring and didn't make you feel anything. I haven't seen Dunkirk. I know it's a war movie, but I've never seen it. So yeah. Sorry, guys. I suck at watching movies. Next one comes from Padawan of Christ. And then he puts it in the order. Sequel trilogy, then prequel trilogy, then original trilogy. I love all three, though. Revenge of the Sith is kind of overrated, less so since Seeds of Mandalore. The Rise of Skywalker is an amazing movie, despite its flaws. Attack of Clones is the best of the prequels. Is that enough? Lol. So, actually, this is, like, honestly, like, one of the most, like, unique, unpopular opinions I've ever heard. You know, I've never seen someone put the sequel trilogy, then the prequels, then the original trilogy. I've never seen the original trilogy last on anyone's list of Star Wars movies. But it's really interesting to hear. Even though I do disagree, it is really interesting to see where you are coming from. Revenge of the Sith is kind of overrated. I can agree with that. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie, but I do think people overrate it, so I can agree with you there. The Rise of Skywalker is an amazing movie. Yeah, like, even though it's like a bad movie, like just if we're judging it by like film standards or whatever, yeah, it's a really shitty movie. But if you like it, you know what I mean, I could understand why people would like it. You know, I don't think it was too hot. But yeah, and obviously he said here, despite flaws, yeah. Like, that's kind of like how I am. Like, personally, me, I enjoy Birds of Prey a lot, but I know a lot of people hated it, and there are a lot of good reasons why people hate it. But, you know, it's just one of those, like, shit movies that I enjoy, so I understand. Attack of the Clones is the best of the prequels. I actually disagree there. I think Attack of the Clones is the worst of the prequels, believe it or not. I do think it gets way too much hate, but now I feel like it's starting to get more praise than it deserves. Yeah, and I'm like a huge prequel purist, and I have to say Attack of the Clones is the weakest. I think it's worse than The Phantom Menace. But yeah, really interesting. Thank you for dropping your takes. Thank you everyone for dropping your takes. Next one comes to us from John W. Unpopular opinion. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I don't know if that's unpopular or not, but yeah, again, I have to check it out. Fuck, can I go? Okay. Next one comes to us from, okay, I'm going to fuck this up, Ho Thulu and the Forbidden Spork, and she says, unpopular opinion. Not all stoners are slackers, no job having losers. Some of us have jobs, families to care for, and other things to do. We just also like to get stoned every once in a while. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, that whole stigma of, like, oh, weed is gonna make you a crack or a meth addict. Oh, weed is gonna make you lazy and you're not gonna want to do anything. I know, there was this documentary on a skier who literally had cannabis for breakfast every morning and like almost every meal, and it helped him do his activity. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, that's just drugs in general. Like, obviously too much of anything is bad. You know, I don't think stoners are bad people at all. You know, I definitely think, you know, it takes the edge off of most people. But yeah, I don't think weed is that bad. And I'm glad that stigma and that feeling is sort of dying out. Like, personally, me in health class, like this year in health, we were learning about drugs and shit, and, you know, they were trying to teach us, basically in the curriculum, it was like, they all, like, because we saw these documentaries, it was like, oh, they all started with weed, and then they started doing harder drugs. That's not going to happen to everyone, you know what I mean? So I think it really just depends on the person as well. But yeah, I agree, not all stoners are slackers, no job having losers. A lot of them are, like, working and functioning members of society and really smart people. Next comes to us from Russian Sundaws. The Clone Wars is mediocre at its best. I disagree. I actually enjoyed the Clone Wars. Obviously, it's way better when you're a child watching it, because personally, me, it came out when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So that's when I was really watching it. That's when I first started getting into Star Wars and everything. So the Clone Wars definitely played a big part in my life, but I don't think it's mediocre. So I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. Next one comes to us from Tessic. I think I said that right. Solo is better than Rogue One. Again, I'm going to have to disagree. I explained pretty much a lot of that before. Yeah, I don't think Solo is better than Rogue One. I think Rogue One's just like that much better than Solo. Next few actually, come to us from Sir Jackson Neeson the First. You got it. Here goes. CGI isn't the devil. Practical effects are awesome, but so is CGI. I love all the Transformers movies, all of them. Republic Commando is the greatest Star Wars game ever. So as for your first one, I agree. I don't think CGI is terrible. Obviously, it needs to be done right, you know, for it to be good. That's where, like, this whole stigma of, oh, CGI is so garbage, you know, practical effects are, like, way better. No, I definitely think CGI is, like, changing the game a lot, especially when it's done well. You know what I mean? So, I agree. Excuse me. I love all the Transformers movies, all of them. I've never seen a single Transformers movies, but from what I've heard, they were pretty bad. But since you like them, that's cool. Republic Commando is the greatest Star Wars game ever. I've never played that one, so I can't talk. I don't game. I'm not a big gamer. Next one comes to us from insert name here. OT Stormtroopers don't get enough credit. They smashed in A New Hope. The inaccuracy on the Death Star was intentional. They're decent in Empire, and while they are shit in Return of the Jedi, it's more their defensive capabilities than their accuracy that suffers. So I agree with you, but I don't overanalyze Stormtroopers like this. You know, I kind of think they were there just for, like, kind of, like, to be, like, a threat. You know what I mean? Even though they weren't, like, you know, obviously they, like, there's, like, all the whole theory of how about their bad aim, and they purposely miss, and all that stuff, but I've never really paid too much attention, but I could get on board with you here. You know, they were they were, the inaccuracy on the Death Star was intentional to help Luke and Leia get away. Yeah, sure, like, that's a fun conspiracy to get behind. They're decent in Empire, yeah, and they were pretty shit in Return of the Jedi. They weren't really too much of a threat, so I agree with you. Benzo says, next unpopular opinion comes to us from Benzo, and he says, Solo should have a sequel, hashtag make Solo 2 happen. I'm not a hashtag make Solo 2 happen person, but if you support it, I think it's great. You know, I mean, if you want Solo to have a sequel, I don't understand why Solo should have a sequel. I think it would be pretty unnecessary, but if it's done right, I will be like, okay, cool. You know, it's whatever. Next comes to us from Legend Life Gaming and Stop Motion. And he says, Rise of Skywalker is better than The Last Jedi. I actually can agree with this. You know, I mean, I think The Last Jedi made me feel more angry and unforgivable, and made me feel like more unforgiving, if that makes sense. And The Rise of Skywalker was just kind of a shitty movie that, like, tried to, like, it attempted to wrap everything up. You know, The Rise of Skywalker was 2 movies into one. I definitely think it should have been, like, 4 hours long. But yeah, I think it's like just that much better than The Last Jedi. Next comes to us from Ninja Space Lord. The Clone Wars is a part of Disney canon and not a part of the original EU canon. Filoni has no respect for the established war or the work of writers who came before him. Maul is dead and Anakin has no Padawan. Mandalorians are a culture, not a race, are not pacifists, and do not have a duchess. So I actually disagree with you there. I don't think the Clone Wars is a Disney canon thing. Well, first of all, let's state the obvious. It was made to help enhance Attack of the Clones and the rest of the prequels better. At least for the 2003 Clone Wars, I heard that was made to kind of like make Attack of the Clones more enjoyable and make it make more sense. And yeah, it was just, the thing is that the Clone Wars was released in the prequel era, so I think saying it's a Disney canon thing is pretty inaccurate. I think you're supposed to separate the Clone Wars and original EU canon, because look at it this way, both are spin-off stories, you know what I mean? Both have, like, a lot of, like, both just add more to the story, you know what I mean? I don't really read too much Expanded Universe, but it's, you know, it's called Expanded Universe for a reason. It just expands the universe that much more. You know, even, like, there has to be things in, like, obviously in, let's say, like, the EU, Luke is in a relationship with Mara Jade, but that also, like, contradicts, like, the whole in the prequels thing, like, oh, you know, Jedi aren't supposed to get married, and it also, like, contradicts, like, the sequel trilogy, too, because, Luke doesn't have a girlfriend. Luke's in exile in the sequel trilogy, so, you know, it's just these spin-off stories. Filoni has no respect for established war or the work of writers, and I don't think so. I don't think Filoni's like that kind of Rian Johnson dude. Filoni's not a douche. Filoni talking about Qui-Gon, you know, that clip, you know, I think Filoni's a gentleman compared to most other guys, and I think he knows what he's talking about, but agree to disagree. Yeah, obviously, like, Maul is dead and Anakin has no Padawan, that's, like, movie canon, but then again, it's this separated universe, you know what I mean? If you say you enjoy the EU, but you don't enjoy the Clone Wars, obviously, like, yeah, books and TV shows are completely different things, and, like, obviously the difference in stories, but you can't judge it by the same standard of them both being spin-offs, because they're both spin-offs, you know what I mean? They're both going to contradict movie canon in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, and Mandalorians are a culture, not a race. I could agree with that. You know, Mandalorians are definitely a culture, so I agree with that. Next comes to us from Decepticon Stoned to D2. The new Star Wars game is trash, and I asked if he was referring to Fallen Order, and then he said yes, and then a bunch of reasons why I'm going to put it on screen. But, again, I don't really care for Star Wars games. Yeah, I've never played Fallen Order, so, yeah, again, I don't game. Next comes to us from Obi-Wan1, and he says, A New Hope is boring as fuck, but still better than that sequel BS, and Mace is the most baddest motherfucker in all of Star Wars. I disagree completely. I think A New Hope is not boring. I think A New Hope is a fun standalone movie, yet a movie that could also have sequels play off of it, so I disagree with you there. And yes, I agree that Mace Windu is the baddest motherfucker of all of Star Wars. Like, Samuel L. Jackson literally said his lightsaber had bad motherfucker on it. So yeah, man. And then him cutting off Jango Fett's head was pretty badass. Next, I think this is the last one, too. Alright, sorry, this is getting long. This is like 30 minutes. Holy fuck. Last one comes from The Knights of Krista. Sabine Wren is a bad character. Annoying, boring, and overall just sucks. So, alright, my hand hurts. Woof. But I haven't seen Rebels, you know what I mean? I haven't seen anything with Sabine Wren in it. So I can't judge, you know. I'm not going to lie to you. I've never watched Rebels because it seems pretty boring. But you know, if you've seen Rebels and you like it, that's great. All right, I'm going to stop talking about this because I haven't seen it, so I really can't have an opinion. But if you guys enjoyed today's video and would like a part 2 that's hopefully shorter, just let me know in the comments below. Obviously, drop your opinions. Let me know if you want a part 2. And I will see you guys in another video. Peace out.